Ladies and gentlemen, this is a real treat we have in store here on the sports report, but we're actually going to turn into the music report here because our guest here is somebody that we've been wanting to talk about here for quite a while. We've gotten familiar with his music over the past few weeks. He's got a brand new single out called Epic, which we just heard actually just before we got on here with him. And it is definitely going to be one of the epic songs here, I think, in the summer and is going to be in your playlist. And he's also right about after we get off the air, he's going to be in a concert. He's actually taking part in a concert here tomorrow night. So it's great timing. And he's definitely somebody that has been one of the premier artists around, especially on Long Island and Amityville. They call him the Amityville Horror. And he is not the Amityville Horror for nothing, ladies and gentlemen, but he's definitely somebody that we're a big fan of. He's got an extensive catalog. He's been working on some great things, and we're looking forward to talking about it here. And without further ado, here on the Music Report, the number one global music show, hip-hop recording artist, Keez.
Yeah.
My friend, how are you?
Yo, that was a phenomenal introduction. Thank you.
You know, I've noticed, Keez, every week we do this on the show, whether it's the music report, the sports report, or even occasionally the news report. I almost let the guests kind of scream out that, yeah, they're so happy because I know everybody at this point, I always like to joke, Keez, says, well, I'm here for the intro. I'm here for the introduction. So we try to live it up to your standards because, well, you're an artist, you're a performing artist, you're recording out there, you've been on tour, so you know how to get a crowd going. And congratulations to you because you're actually going to be back performing once again. You got a big virtual concert tomorrow night. And for our worldwide audience listening here on Sportnarium, Keez, talk about the big news here that you're going to be taking part in a virtual concert tomorrow night.
Well, it's set up by my boy, Edward J. Jones, Stay Vintage virtual concert. He had done a couple of them during the height of the COVID season. I was unable to take part, and this is like my first run back, and I'm extremely excited. And I believe he just kind of asked me to co-host as well. So I'm going to get on and kill my set, and I'm going to stay tuned for some other artists, do some networking, and just hoping to have a good time. I'm happy that we could all be safe and have fun again and get back to what we love to do.
Absolutely. And we were talking with an artist last week, Jeff Oakes, and his group is Jeff Oakes and the Soul Town Orchestra. And Jeff's getting ready to go back out there on tour. And we were talking with Jeff, and we were talking about how hard it's been for a performing artist to be able to go out there. And obviously with the pandemic, there was virtually no touring up until I want to say maybe in the last month or so, especially in the Northeast. So I got to ask you then, Keez, I mean, how excited are you when it comes to getting back out there?
Well, right before we all got locked down, I had booked South by Southwest. I was supposed to perform. I had my tickets and everything. I was about to go. And then March, people started pulling out of South by Southwest. Twitter canceled, and then some other people canceled, and then they canceled the event entirely. And then I was like, well, what's going on? I'm trying to call the airport. And at that time, during the height of it all, you couldn't get through at all to anybody. I would call, I sent emails and everything else, kind of like, oh my goodness. So that was supposed to be the big event for me. And then so everything kind of got canceled, and we had to quarantine at home for a little while. So actually what I ended up doing for the remainder of 2020 was I had some older songs that I had recorded I had gotten a record deal a few years back, and I recorded an album. And the album came out exclusively on the label's website. It wasn't available on a worldwide aspect. So what ends up happening is my contract was over. I still owned the rights to my music. So I remastered and reworked some of the songs so that I can release periodically. You know, I didn't know when everything was going to kind of open back up, and we were going to get back into the swing of things. So I was working a little bit in the back end. I never stopped. I was like, okay, well, we can't really perform, and some people are sketchy about going to record or whatever else, but there's some things I can still do. So we're always working.
Always listen. You're always working. And that's why we've seen so much music from you in the past year. And you said something interesting, and I want to go back to that because you talked about that you had a record deal and then you were able to own the rights of your recordings. And obviously, the music industry has changed dramatically over the past several years. And we were talking with Jeff about this, and Jeff's obviously like yourself. He's been out there, he's toured, he's had success, and he's been out there. I mean, how important was that for you to be able to own the rights of your recordings? Because if you think about record labels, and you don't make really any money off it, even if you have the worldwide deals. So it's almost vital, I gotta think, as an artist, for your creativity to be able to own those recordings and be able to release them. And in your case, you were able to re-release them. I mean, for our worldwide audience listening here on Sportnarium, talk about how important was that aspect in being able to own your recordings and to be able to reuse them again.
That's a really big deal for me. In fact, that was one of the terms that I had arranged when I signed the contract, that I have access to my music. I never liked the idea of somebody else owning or having control over the music that I created or that I wrote. Like a lot of labels will have like ownership of your songs and your masters, and they didn't do anything except, I mean, I guess the distribution maybe and something else, but the creative aspect of it, I always wanted to be in charge of what I can do with my music. I hate to be like limited, like, oh, well, you have a hold on it, so you can't perform this song or you can't play this song because these people need to get money. And I understand that business part, but the most important thing for me was to have the rights to my own music.
I would have to think that's vital as an artist, because if you remember growing up, you'd see all those behind the musics that VH1 used to air, and you'd see an artist, and for example, if they would sell 1 million or 2 million records, everybody would think, oh my God, they made $2 million. But it doesn't really work that way, because the artist only makes, I believe at the time, they would only make like 10 cents on the dollar. So the only way as an artist you really made your money is touring. So I would have to think releasing new music, which you've been able to do, I think is going to be able to help you get back on tour. And Keez, I want to go back to tomorrow night's concert. And for our worldwide audience listening here on Sportnarium, I like to be able to get some information so we could be able to get out there and kind of watch you and the rest of these great lineups, and also fill us in on some details on where we can get involved and watch the concert.
Sure. It's called the Stay Vintage Virtual Concert, and it starts at 7 p.m. There's going to be actually a link sent out. It's actually a secret location too. So when I go, I'll be notified ahead of time. But there's going to be a link that we will send out probably like 1 to 2 hours beforehand, so that people can go and tune in and stuff like that. Also on my Instagram, I'll have it on live, so I'll be streaming it through that way. And I believe we're going to have some cameramen there so we can do probably maybe a stream that way as well. Again, my Instagram tag is Keez Hip Hop, so I'll be live streaming it from there as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have plans, because we know that the Sports Report on Saturdays goes off the air at 7 o'clock Eastern time. So I think it's 7 o'clock Eastern time. Listen, perfect timing. I mean, this is why you got to go over to Instagram at Keez.
That does work out.
That's why we wanted you on. We had a good feeling that this was going to definitely work out here. And also want to make sure we recognize the legendary Olivier Laurent for setting this up here. And of course, Olivier Laurent is no stranger to the Sports Report, because we've had him on the show here a few times. We've played his music, we've edited his audiobook, and of course a 1,000-point scorer over at SJC Long Island. So want to make sure we recognize Olivier for giving us this opportunity. And Keez, I also want to talk about the brand new single Epic, 100%. Because we just played the brand new single right before we spoke with you here on the air, and it is definitely one of my favorite songs. And in the UK we would call it a banger. It is definitely a banger, no pun intended. And talk about the new single. Listen, we love you. We love you already, and I got a good feeling a lot more people are going to love you after this interview. But I was curious talk about the new single for us and how that came about and just the overall response to it.
Well, the song Epic was initially, when I did it, it was almost a favor for somebody. They wanted me to make a song, and at the same time, sometimes you get like writer's block. I was kind of in a creative stall for a little bit. So I was thinking, and then I started to think about what I could say or something that meant something to me. And then the concept of epic, of being an epic person and doing epic things came up. And so I channeled that. And it took me more than a week to write, because I was very precise and meticulous about the bars. I wanted to make sure I said this the right way. I'm going to make sure I put that in the right context. So it actually took me some time to develop, and it actually worked out too, because the timing on it was really good. Those who may know me know I'm doing a challenge that I started this year for myself. I call it Get Up and Get It. And that's where I wake up in the morning and I do something constructive with myself, whether that be something spiritual, whether that be business related, whether it be exercise, anything to help push life forward in a better way. And so I was in volume 2 of the Get Up and Get It. And it just so happened that it ended right as the single came out. That was 5/21/21. So that was like the last day of my work week. I was on vacation, and so I dropped the single at the same time, and it got a great response. I had a lot of people reposting it. A couple of friends of mine tagged me, and actually Olivier and I, we went the next week. We did a show. We were vendors at a Smoke Champs. It's a podcast. I don't know if you're familiar with Drink Champs with Nori.
Yep.
They did a show. We were vendors there, and the DJs played in the event, and it was great. I was extremely almost speechless, you know what I'm saying? Because it just came out. It just came out a couple days ago, and y'all are playing it in front of everybody. And I was like, I'm very happy about the response that I've gotten. Things have been, like I said, easing up. So I'm going to get more into the recording aspect. Like as far as videos are concerned, I want to drop a video for it. And I'm actually thinking about doing a remix. And on the remix, maybe recruiting some heavy hitters to put on there.
Got a very good feeling that it is going to continue to be in rotation, and we're going to play it here on Sportnarium Radio throughout the week, because we run the stream, so we can pretty much play it 24 hours a day if we felt like it. So we're very excited about that. And Keez, you said something interesting before I get into Olivier, and you talked about a music video. And we were talking with Jeff Oakes last week, and Jeff's had a plan that he wants to release 36 music videos of his work. And I would have to think, as an artist, doing a music video is really important. And you've had success. I mean, you've gotten 50,000 streams before. You've had a record deal. You've done some pretty big things. I mean, what's that process like in working on a music video? I mean, I have to think, as an artist, it's extremely important to have a music video.
Yes, that's actually, in some regards, a lot of people find the visual more important than the audio itself, than the music, because you can have a good song or whatever else, but people like to see something. Like you could see the influence of something like YouTube, where somebody has like 1 billion views, and you're like, how is that even possible? Like 1 billion people watch this? You know what I mean? But the visual is extremely important, I feel like, now, because people want to put a face to the music, I guess. Or maybe the visual can give you a point that you didn't necessarily pick up. A lot of times you'll hear a song and it'll sound cool, but when you kind of see what the vision that the artist maybe had planned, you kind of get a different idea of it. I didn't even think of that. And now it expands it a little more. What Jeff had said is really a great idea, to get, a bunch of your songs and do videos for them all, so that it's just more content to put out, more things for people to see. They might not hear the song, but they'll see the video. They might, you know what I mean? I think that's actually very wise to do.
Absolutely. I mean, if you even go back into the 60s, and Jimi Hendrix only had a very short time on the earth, but I remember one of his videos, Crosstown Traffic, was one of the most earliest music videos. And I think in a long ways, being an artist and having a music video, like I said, it allows you to promote. It allows you to continue to put earth to the record, to put songs out there, and to be able to get to different audiences. Because we've seen, listen, YouTube essentially now is our MTV, because everybody goes to YouTube and watches a music video. It used to be, obviously, back in the day, you'd go to MTV, go to MTV2 to an extent, Fuse, VH1, and you have different genres. They would play the music video. Everybody would then be able to go out and buy a record. But now YouTube YouTube pretty much has replaced all of that. So that's why I got to think it's really important as an artist to have those music videos. And I want to bring him up because I know we've referenced him a couple of times, and that's Olivier Laurent. I know that you were on a song with Olivier's last year, and Olivier, I think, is a little bit of a different artist than you are. And I think that's why it was a really interesting combo that you were on an Olivier's song. And maybe talk about some of the things that you learned from being on a song with Olivier, and what's he like as an artist, and maybe some of the things that you've learned from him as an artist.
Well, I'm going to shout out Olivier also because he's on one of my songs on my Come Hell or High Water album called Lighters. Now, there's a backstory to the album and the song, but I will say that when he came to the studio, that was a turning point for me. And just in general, like everything that kind of came with it. But him as an artist, I admire, and I told him this a lot, several times, that I feel as though his hustle is really, like, he has a strong work ethic and he has a focus that I'm getting into. And I wish I had more of when I was his age. I'm probably a few years his senior, but like he's very focused and he has a business mind. And as an artist, because we were on the same label together, that's where I met him, actually. I didn't know him previously. I met him in the studio through our record company at the time. And after everything, where we stayed cool, and actually I feel like we got closer since then as far as doing business together and other things. Now, I'm wondering which song that you heard that we were on, because we've done a few of them. Could have been Who Is This? We did something called Stereotype years ago. We did a couple of freestyles. Our styles have been different, but I think that's also what makes the music stand out. Now you have different styles bringing something different to the song and making it hit a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely. And we heard you on Who Is This? And you could definitely tell that you added something a little different than what we're used to from hearing not only your music, but also Olivier's music. And I think that that's what makes you guys such a great combo and such a great pairing. And that's why we're here on the Music Report, the #1 global music show, with one of our favorite artists. That's hip hop artist Keez, who's actually going to be performing tomorrow night on a virtual concert, which you can find on Keez Hip Hop on his Instagram feed. So that's at Keez, Keez Hip Hop. So you can find out there 7 p.m. Eastern time. So we're on the air tomorrow night from 5 to 7. And then right after 7 o'clock, you hop onto Keez's Instagram feed. You can watch the stream. And I am the host of the Music Report, the Reverend Tom Bryson. You can follow everybody here on Sportnarium at Sportnarium WW Twitter, Instagram at Sportnarium, Facebook at Sportnarium Radio, at Sportnarium Media as well on Facebook. And you can also catch anybody you like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year on SportnariumRadio.com. And you can catch the Sports Report, the Music Report, whatever else we're doing these days, ladies and gentlemen, from Friday to Sunday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern time, 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. UK time. And also want to shout out one of our sponsors, 1310 Apparel. You can make sure you follow them on Twitter at 1310APP, Instagram at 1310 Apparel, Facebook at 1310 Apparel, and the Sports Report, Sportnarium, and Josh over at 1310 Apparel have worked on a brand new discount. You get a 30% discount any purchase over at 1310 Apparel. You can do that by going to 1310apparel.bigcartel.com and go into checkout and just press in the code SPORT30 caps lock. That's SPORT30 caps lock. When you go to checkout, put in the code SPORT30 over at 1310apparel.bigcartel.com. So want to make sure we shout out everybody over at 1310 Apparel. Also want to one more time shout out Olivier Laurent, the legendary SJC Golden Eagle 1,000 point scorer, who gave us this opportunity with our guest here right now on the Music Report. That is the legendary Keez, who's done a pretty good job when it comes to representing the hip hop industry, especially out of Amityville. And I got to ask you then, Keez, for a worldwide audience listening here on Sportnarium, why do they call you the Amityville Horror?
We call it Amityville Horror because of the dedication and the energy that I put into my lyrics. I feel as though I have a slogan that I use. I say no bars off. That means I don't take off. I don't slack on any lines. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it wholeheartedly. And I feel as though that with the music and my lyrical acumen, I'll say that I've captured something so that could be potentially, when I don't mean vicious in a negative way, but like, you know how you hear something, you're like, oh, like that. You know what I mean? that's it. And it just it's something that stuck. I started using it at the shows, and then there we go. Took it from there.
Well, you do a phenomenal job, and I'd have to say we might be afraid of you out there on stage because you definitely kill it out there. You do a phenomenal job, and I also then got to ask you, what is Amityville like? Because we have a lot of listeners out there, whether it's in the UK or even here in Staten Island and parts of Brooklyn. They may not be as familiar with Amityville as you and I would be. So, talk to me about what Amityville is like and how Amityville has shaped you as an artist.
Well, a lot of people know Amityville from the actual Amityville Horror, the movie, and the legend of it. And that's only one aspect that happened a few years ago. It's really a far cry from that. What the thing about Amityville, I've been an Amityville guy pretty much my whole life. Like since I was young, I was raised here. When I grew up, I moved, but further into Amityville. So it's just, you know what I mean? Through growing up, neighborhoods, school, work, even now I'm working in the village of Amityville, and I'm doing some work with trying to make things more productive. I'd like to, you know what I mean? I'd like to be helpful to the community itself. I'd like to, you know what I mean? I'd like to build, I'd like it better. I'd like to leave it better than when I came. You know what I mean? Amityville, it's actually it's inbred in me. So that's why I even use that as part of my namesake. I call myself the Amityville Horror because it's in me. It's in my blood, basically. I'm always shouting it out on songs. And when I go out of state, performing out of state in like Virginia or Georgia or California or Vegas, I always make sure I shout out Amityville every time.
Well,
I would have done it in Texas too.
I was gonna say, Keez, what stays in Vegas is the old adage, and you were actually talking with Jeff Oakes, and
yes,
he shouted Texas true. Out as well. So I could certainly sympathize with that. And before I get into maybe some of the favorite places you've toured as an artist, and we're gonna play two more of your songs after our interview here, and I want to talk about those songs so our listeners can get a sense of what they can expect here. And that's the songs Movement and Perspective. Talk to me about those songs, what they meant to you, and the process was of recording those songs.
I'll start with Perspective because that's a deeper meaning to that record. With Perspective, that was on the Come Hell or High Water album. Now, the background of that album is when it was recorded, I thought legitimately that would be my last album. I'd fallen ill in 2000 and the end of 2016, 2017, and I was in a bad way. I thought, and I was like really, really sick. Things weren't really working out that well. And I was like, wow, I might be out of here. So believe it or not, the last thing that I thought that I should do, or I was like, oh, well, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to at least record one more album. So that's what this album was. And Perspective was the lead single on that project. And even in the lyrics, you can hear what I was going through or what, just, questioning things. The first line is, what if these scars are a reminder? I have scars on my neck from a biopsy that I had where they were trying to figure out, they had to go in and discover what was going on. And it's just different things. Like, what if this happened? What if this happened? What if this happened? And it all becomes clear once you take a look at things in that way. You know what I mean? Like things could have completely been different if this hadn't happened or if this hadn't happened. And you kind of take into account how your life alters or changes or adjustments that you might have to make as a result of life. So that was Perspective. The Movement was more of a fun record that I made. The beat that I got, it was like, all right, this is fun. Let's do this. So, and actually the version that we have now was, I had to re-record because I had recorded it a little while ago. And as you get older or whatever, or you evolve, I'm like, well, I kind of liked it, but I wanted to change a few things on it. And so just make it a little bit more clean, a little bit more crisp. And the Movement is basically also, as it says in the song, it's how we're going to keep moving forward. Everything that we're doing is fueling us toward this greatness, but we keep moving.
Certainly quite the contrast between the two songs. And Keez, I got to go back to what you were talking about when it came to Perspective. And you had a situation that very few people don't have, and especially as an artist, in a way, maybe it's autobiographical with a song like that, or maybe any other experiences that you've had since then. How do you treat things since you've had that moment? Because I have to think that maybe that experience shaped you in a positive way, because we see everything that you're doing on social media. You do a phenomenal job. And everybody, one more time, needs to follow Keez on Instagram at Keez Hip Hop. That's Keez Hip Hop, and find out why he is one of our favorite artists. And of course, tomorrow night's virtual concert. But everything you strive for, I've noticed, is positivity. Getting out there and getting it, the freestyle videos. When we see you, you could tell you bring positive energy. There's some people out there that may not necessarily always bring that in their social media. But when I see you as an artist, Keez, and we have a lot of artists that we talk with, a lot of athletes that we talk about, and you're always, I feel like, on a positive. Talk to me about that experience and maybe how that shaped you since as an artist.
Well, it's also going to tie in what we were talking about too with the lighter song and Olivier. Well, what happened was there's this condition called sarcoidosis, and the doctors don't know how you get it. There's no cure for it. Best you can do is put it to sleep. What it is a degenerative disorder, and whatever organ that it affects, it makes it so that it doesn't work as it should. To put in a little perspective for you, that's what Bernie Mac, the comedian, died of.
Oh, sure.
He had it in his lungs, and he caught, I guess he caught pneumonia. And because it was in his lungs, the sarcoidosis, it made it so his lungs weren't working the right way, and he passed as a result. It can be a deadly disease. Sometimes people will get it and it'll affect them for a second and then just go away and never bother them again. It kind of sprung up on me, and I was diagnosed with it in the hospital, in my stomach, my chest, and my brain. And so like I said, I was in a bad way. I thought I was on the way out. And so what happened was I recorded this album. I said, okay, well, this will be my last will and testament. I'm going to leave something if I have to go. And the actual recording of the project was more therapy, and it helped me to get better. I became better as I was writing down stuff and recording, and I started to feel better and get better. And that story I was telling you about with Lighters, where I hit a turning point, Olivier was coming to record his verse for that song. And at that time, I was in a bad way mentally. I was feeling sorry for myself. I was kind of, because I wasn't feeling well. I was just down in my, I was like, how you get kind of getting your feelings, and almost like self-pity and stuff, like, why me, which is, it's just really a toxic mentality to have, but that's where I was. Olivier came to the studio with a friend of ours named Mikey. Now, Mikey has palsy, and Mikey's never been to the studio before or since then, and he's had palsy for a while, but when I saw him, he was so upbeat, like nothing bothered him. He was making jokes. He had difficulty getting up and down the stairs, but he made it work, and he didn't complain. He didn't have there was no negative in his persona. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of what he was going through, he was still in a good mood. And Olivier actually put that in the verse that's on the Lighter song. And I saw that, and it like snapped me out of it. You know what I mean? I'm like, yo, this dude he's been like this for years, and he's upbeat, and he's like happy. He's joking with us and everything. And here I am, like under a year, and I'm over here feeling sorry for myself. You know what I'm saying? So I got to pick this up, and then that changed. That's why I said it was a turning point, because it changed things for me, and it put me back on this idea where, okay, I got to make the most out of everything that's going on. And that's how I live now, because I feel like I have another chance. So everything that I said I was going to do growing up, or I always said, yeah, I'm gonna rap, and I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go in front of stages, and I have no choice but to do it, because I have another chance to do it. That's how I live now. Everything is still a fight. Things aren't as easy as would be for some people to get, to maybe get back in shape or achieve what they're looking to do. But I have extra fight in me. So whatever, if I have to go around the corner when I could have gone straight, whatever, it is what it is. I'm going to get it done.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's an expression that we've used here for the past 2.5 years on the air. A rising tide lifts all boats. And we definitely know that Keez is always going to be that rising tide. And that little story that he told should be a motivation for anybody here listening on the Music Report, that you might have a bad day, but guess what? Somebody else might be having an even tougher day. So you just got to pick yourself back up there. And I guarantee you there will be better days ahead. And Keez is definitely showing us why, that he has given us a lot of things to look forward to, and especially his brand new single, which we just played here a little while ago, called Epic. And he's got a brand new concert that he's working on here, which he's going to be a part of tomorrow night. So we're very excited about that. So there is a lot to be excited when it comes to the world of Keez. And Keez, I got to ask you now, I'm hearing a lot about your music. I'm hearing about all these great things that you've done, you're going to do, especially with tomorrow night. But I got to ask you, how'd you get into music?
Into music? This is funny. I think I discovered rap from MC Hammer. I'm almost positive. That was my first. But like as a kid, I started with poetry. I used to write rhyming poems. So then I had an old Casio keyboard with like a basic beat, like a funk beat. I would play it and I would rap on it and make a song on like my little, we had tape players back then.
Yep.
So I could press record, and I can record into the boom box without, like, there's no mic. I had to just sing into it. And obviously I couldn't edit it. So I had to do it all in one shot. I didn't have any formatting down. I didn't know how many bars there were supposed to be in a verse. I just kind of went and did stuff. And I did that as a kid for a little while. And then it wasn't until I think about 8th grade when it kind of picked it back up. And that was a friend of mine got a beat maker and started making instrumentals in his basement. And so then we got back and it was like it never left. I was like, oh, wow, I forgot I could do this. And I just went from there.
Listen, I'm not surprised when you talk about the keyboards and you talk about the cassette players, because my father was a drum teacher, and I remember as a little kid he had those drum machines, and then he would have the cassette player, and you'd try to make a song and you couldn't edit it, and you'd have to play it back. So you think about now, and everybody has technology. I mean, listen, you can make a song in 5 minutes and edit it 50 times over. I mean, you can pretty much edit anything. But back in the day, even 20 years ago, you didn't really have the technology that we have today. So it just shows you how much we've evolved as society, because even think about 25 years ago, doesn't feel that long ago, and yet we're so far in advance when it comes to technology. So I could certainly see why that you've become the artist that you are, because you've been out there a long time. But I got to ask you this, because you kind of took a little bit of a fork in the road in between. You know, in this show, especially on the Sports Report and Sportnarium, we do talk a lot about professional wrestling. And I have to bring it up because I understand apparently you were actually a professional wrestler for a time. And I almost have to ask you about that experience and what that was like.
I would love to talk about that. Actually, and this was before I started doing rap as like a career. I was probably doing it more as for fun. I used to tell people, I'd like, in like 10 years, you're going to see me walk down the aisle in like a wrestling arena. And to be honest with you, without even realizing it, I kind of called it into existence because that happened. What happened was I was on the train, I was going to a Ring of Honor show. I was going to meet my cousin there, and I run into this guy on the train. He just asked me if I like wrestling. Yeah, absolutely. And he gave me a flyer to a show that he was doing on Long Island somewhere. I was like, all right, I'll check it out. So I ended up going to the show, and then I ended up talking to the guys, and they put me into their group. Now I'm thinking I'm going there for a tryout. The one day I go, like I went there for the show first. Then they asked me to come back. I think I'm going for a tryout. And as soon as I get there, they're like, all right, your match is up next. I'm like, wait, what? What? I went in the match and it turned out actually pretty good. The thing is, I used one of my old songs as a theme song initially. And during the match, you know how you get heckled by the crowd or whatever else? They were saying something along the lines of Carlton, like the Fresh Prince. So, what ended up happening was I recorded a song that I used as my new entrance theme, and I actually threw some of the taunts from the crowd. I threw that into the song, like into the lyrics or whatever. Anyway, my name was Romeo Legend, and my finishing move, my move set is very suplex oriented and power based. I'm like, what's the word I'm looking for? I would say strong style, that's not the word that they used to call it. It used to be I can't remember off the top of my head, but I would do a lot of suplexes like T-bones and hanging vertical suplexes. And my finishing maneuver was a belly to belly suplex. I call it the belly of the beast. So I did a few dark matches for some shows. I wrestled for FTW and in Deer Park. We did a couple of shows, and I was able to rub elbows with a bunch of the wrestlers who I looked up to growing up, including some of the people from ECW, which was when I discovered ECW, it was like nothing else I'd ever seen.
Same here. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up because that's how I really, really looked at wrestling totally different. And I used to get ECW tapes through tape trading as a kid in school because I couldn't stay up to watch ECW at 1 o'clock in the morning. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, like I discovered ECW. It was almost like, is this even like, is this like a guerrilla production? Is this like illegal? Because you used to see in WCW, WWE, they're like grand productions and stuff like that. Yeah. It almost looked like they recorded this on like a camcorder in the back, and there was like flaming tables and chairs. I'm like, this is like, like, am I supposed to be watching this? You know what I mean? So I was able to meet a lot of people that I was introduced to from ECW, like Balls Mahoney, rest in peace, Sabu, yeah, man, Tommy Dreamer. Just like, it was fun. And actually, I would love to get myself back in fighting shape and get back into the ring. And if I get enough money, I would definitely open or sponsor a wrestling promotion. I'd be like a contributor or something, an investor, because I love it.
Might be in luck, my friend, because we do have friends in high places and a couple of different promotions out there in the world. So I can guarantee you that we can definitely talk to some powers that be and see what we could come up with. But when you talked about ECW, man, you got me thinking about when I was in high school. I was in drama class, and when I was in music class, there was a friend of mine, big kid, Adam Freeland. And Adam Freeland was hugely into ECW. And I had just rediscovered wrestling. And I liked WCW and I liked the WWF, but he was like, oh, listen, man, he would talk about wrestling in class. And I would just be distracted because I didn't care about drama and I didn't care about the music class I was in. All I wanted to think about was wrestling. He talked about Sabu versus Rob Van Dam. And this was maybe like 2 or 3 years prior to I discovered ECW. So we're probably talking like 2000 or whatever it was. And I'm like, oh, well, how do you have these matches? And he had all of them recorded on a VHS at that time. So I would sit for hours at home. In fact, I would not even go to school half the time. I would skip going to class sometimes and try to watch some of these matches. I watched Taz versus Shane Douglas. I watched Public Enemy versus the Dudleys. I mean, it's a long list. Terry Funk, obviously. I mean, it was a long list of people. So if you think about even AEW today, and I think AEW is the modern version of ECW, Ring of Honor to an extent, but I think AEW in the mainstream has definitely, I think, taken what ECW has done and maybe added a mix of the NWA and some of the old WCW. But I got to ask you then this question, Keez, because obviously you've been a professional wrestler. You've been now an artist. You've had a lot of success, especially in the hip hop world. You've had a record deal. You've been out there where you've performed nationally. You've had articles written about you. You've done a lot of successful things. You had a little taste of that as a professional wrestler. I mean, talk to me about maybe some of the differences and similarities you see in those worlds, because you've actually been in both and have achieved some degrees of success in both.
I think it's a lot more similar than people really realize. Like a wrestling promo is very similar to some rap verses that you'll hear. You know what I mean? And the showmanship of it carries over. And actually, I feel as though it helps to a degree, because if you're a wrestler, say you're a heel, and you go out and you rile up the audience or whatever, you're not really concerned. Like, your apprehension goes away because you're out there talking trash to the crowd, and you know what I mean, like, what they think about you probably doesn't matter, because you're trying to be a bad guy. You know what I mean? You're going out there like, okay, well, whatever, doesn't matter what you think. So you kind of like write off people's opinions. In the same aspect now, say I'm going to perform, and you have to have confidence in that I'm putting out a quality product. And you might not necessarily get the response that you think that you should get, or maybe the groom might be quiet, or maybe you're not getting the reaction that you think you should get. But you could turn that off now, because like a parallel is like, okay, well, it doesn't matter what they're thinking. I know what I came to do, and you know what I mean. It's like you're in with the audience, but you can tune them out. You know what I'm saying? It helps in that aspect, that it builds your confidence. I know a lot of wrestlers have gone into something like stand-up comedy, which is a hard field world as well. But because of their experience with the audience, they can, you know what I mean? It doesn't affect them as different. They're kind of numb to it, if that makes sense.
Oh, no question about it. And you certainly see wrestlers, whether it's a Mick Foley or a Rob Van Dam, that go into stand-up comedy. And I always thought that stand-up comedy was one of the toughest things to do. In fact, one of my friends, Azim Khalil, tried it, and he tried it, I think, on 2 or 3 different occasions. And it's very hard to get that crowd reaction. But we know that Keez is definitely getting those crowd reactions because he's got a big virtual concert tomorrow night that we're very excited about. You can find that on Keez's Instagram at Keez Hip Hop and find out all the great things that he's worked on, including the brand new single Epic and all the great things that he's working on. We have 2 more songs of his that we're going to play after our interview with him airs here, including the songs Movement and Perspective. We're very excited about that. And also the Contingency Plan here that he's done a phenomenal job with. So there's a lot of great things that he has done. And that's why we're honored to have a few more minutes with him here on the Music Report. And I am the host of the Music Report, the Reverend Tom Bryson. Keez, I got to ask you, you did something pretty special in that you're actually trademarked. And when I think about people who are trademarked, I think about, speaking of wrestling, the Ultimate Warrior. If you remember years back, I actually got his name changed to the Ultimate Warrior, but you didn't quite do that, but you did get trademarked earlier this year. And congratulations. And talk about that process. And hopefully it wasn't as contentious as the Ultimate Warrior's one.
Right. Well, the thing is, I was calling myself initially when I first started. I didn't know what I wanted to call myself. I had started calling myself Enigmas, which was my original name, and then it changed over to Keez at some point. And then I found I made it into an acronym. So Keez stands for Keep Everything Easy, and it's spelled Keez. However, if I were to type that in and look for my music, there would be a few other Keez, artists named Keez, more than a few actually. And so I was like, well, this could be problematic because that's my name. It's what I've been using as my music and stuff like that, so forth and so on. So doing the research, sometimes you get confused between copyrights and trademarks. The difference is copyright is for actual works, like a song you can copyright, a story you can copyright. For names, for your actual name, and you need a trademark for that. So they have this thing where a trademark database, you can type in the name that you're looking to trademark, list of everybody who has that name in what context it's used in. There are other keys, but the keys, their categories are not music. So everybody who was using this name Keez was just using the name, which essentially at one point so was I. I was just using the name. So you find out the category that you fit in, you pay the fee, and after a few months, they'll let you know if it goes through. And actually, when I first trademarked it, I did it the wrong way. I trademarked Keez as a writer, not as an artist. So I was able to get that solidified. Then I did it again. This time, I got the trademark as both a performing artist and a recording artist. So now I am actually the only legal Keez. There are other people who might use the name, but even past that, I've been able to talk to Spotify, Apple, and they've been in YouTube, and they're kind of recognizing me as the only Keez. So everything is kind of getting sucked into my portal, if you know what I mean. If on Spotify, I have the verified artist tag, I'm trying to get that, I'm going to get that done on everything else. And I'm going to put out so much content that there really will be only one Keez.
Well, there better be only one Keez because there's only one Keez that we are going to recognize. So we're certainly glad that some of these other places, these other vendors are certainly doing the same thing here. And this is a small taste of what you get here with Keez and all the great things that he's doing. And Keez, I got to then ask you then for our worldwide audience listening here on Sportnarium, we know that you have the virtual concert tomorrow night. We know that you have the new single out, but I wanted to ask you, what are your goals for the rest of 2021?
For the rest of 2021, I have actually some things in the works. Going to be launching my business, and the business is incorporating a few things in it. Publishing and actually music label. I've been releasing my own music through my entity, but I want to take on some artists. Now, not in a traditional sense either. I'd like to come up with arrangements and collaborate with artists either on making a single or if they want to do a project. Nothing long-term unless it's something that people would like to do. But I'm getting all that in order because by the end of the year, that's going to be out. And it actually is the Piffridge Farm tapes that I dropped. These are mixtapes. It's not just me on on there. I have a whole bunch of people I rock with. Olivier is on at least 3 of them. That's the name of my company. And these are just like tapes to showcase different artists and stuff like that. By year's end, that's going to be an entity. I have a lot of things worked up and going to release with that. And I want to finish a couple of things that I have in the works right now. I have a song I'm working on, and I'm working on writing a few projects. I have an idea in mind. Everything that's happening, something that I planned. It might not have been the same name, maybe the title changed, but it's all kind of on track. So before the year's end, I want to release a few more things to keep the momentum going. And with this concert and any upcoming performances, I want to establish my presence more thoroughly and get a strong foothold in this industry. I want to reach a lot of people. And more importantly, I'd like to inspire people, whether it's lyrically or inspirational, because you know the story. I want to, like I said, I want to change things for the better. I want to leave things better than when I came.
Ladies and gentlemen, we definitely know that Keez is going to do that, and we're very excited about that. And those Perfect Farms tapes, listen, they had 50,000 streams out there. So the fact that he's working on something related to that.
Well, actually, this one it's shot up again. We're at 85,000.
Wow.
Almost to 90,000,
Wow.
and that's the last one.
Wow. 85,000.
Yeah, that's the last one that just came out.
Wow. We just had on an artist.
It's even more remarkable because I only have it on one place.
It's incredible.
like moving forward, they're going to be wider spread, but I only released it on thatpiff.com, and it's like 85,000 right now. I think
that's unbelievable.
It's pretty big.
Yeah, listen, I mean, we had on an artist last week, a guy Martin Hamantel from a band Headless, and they only had 65,000 views on YouTube, and they have a record deal, and they've sold like hundreds of thousands of records. So the fact that you had that many streams, I mean, I could clearly see why. We're very excited that Keez is going to have a major 2021 ahead, and certainly into 2022. And before I get your closing thoughts and ask you about one or two moments that stand out most in your career, and I have a feeling there's a lot of big moments, but
Sure.
It kind of ties into this whole stream success because, my friend, you were actually at the Grammys a few years ago. I mean, that's a pretty cool feat. I mean, I know you've done a lot of things. You've been a professional wrestler. You've rubbed elbows with a who's who of people, but the Grammys, I mean, that's a bucket list thing. I mean, how many people can say that they've been to the Grammys? So you got to talk to me about that experience a few years ago being at the Grammys.
Well, again, it ties into Come Hell or High Water. Come Hell or High Water was the album that we sent out, nominated in several categories. And there's rounds. So I was nominated in a few categories, and whatever round was, I got eliminated. But they sent us an invite to go out to California, and we went down to the Staples Center, and we went to the 2018 Grammys, which was from off the back of Come Hell or High Water. So from almost dying, that whole thing kind of just changed. From that point, that's almost a turning point in my complete life. From there till now, it shaped who I am now. I've always been an aspect, or you know what I mean? Like, I've always been me to this to some degree, but the way that I am now, my drive, my ambition, it's all as a result. And I was really pushing hard. I wanted to get like one of the final nominations for any of the categories. And I was pushing hard, and there's some things that you realize that the hard work is one part of it, but then there's also, you got to be networking involved and different other aspects that add to the final success that you end up getting. But to be in the building and actually, like, because they have two shows. They have like the main show that you see, and they have another show because there's a lot of Grammy Awards. So it's much more intimate in the show ahead of the televised one. So I'm in close. We're at the Biltmore. I'm with different artists. One of the artists that I hung out with, he won a Grammy that weekend. Talking to a lot of different producers and artists, people from different states, met people from Chicago, Baltimore, and all over the place. And then we brought our little Amityville flair in, and it was worth it. It was worth it to me. And I absolutely want to do it again. I'm going to go back, and my goal is to bring home a Grammy or several. That idea hasn't hasn't changed. But like I said, I'm thankful. I'm thankful that even though things don't necessarily work the way that you think they're going to, it still works out in your favor. And I'm extremely blessed. That's what I could say.
Ladies and gentlemen, very few people, they can say that they've been in a position that Keez has been in. And we have a feeling that he's going to go back and he is going to be nominated for a Grammy. And who knows, he may even win it because, listen, he's demonstrated that he's had the toughness. He's demonstrated that he's shown the resiliency. And he's somebody that we have a very good feeling that the future is definitely looking very bright for it, especially with tomorrow's upcoming virtual concert, which you can catch on his Instagram feed at Keez Hip Hop and find out why we're really excited about the future of Keez. And Keez, before I get your closing thoughts, and obviously it's been a tremendous honor to be able to speak with you and talk about your journey and get a taste of some of the great things that you're doing.
Same here, man.
Also play some of the great music.
Same here on my end.
We're going to definitely bring it back, my friends. I got a feeling you're going to be working on some very, very big things. But before I get your closing thoughts, I know you've had a lot of moments. We've gotten a little bit of a sneak preview on some of those moments, but I still have to ask, especially for our worldwide audience listening here on Sportnarium, is there one or two moments so far that stand out most in your career?
Yes. Aside from the Grammys, there was a time I went to perform in Virginia, and it was kind of impromptu. Me and my friend wrote a song, and we got on stage, and we didn't realize how many people were in the arena. Legit, it was like 15,000 or something like that. And, it's funny because we performed and we killed it. But then somebody came to me and told me, like, when you got on stage, like your face looked like you saw a ghost. Like, I guess I had never seen that many people out there before, but I didn't even realize I did it. They said that you snapped out of it and then just killed it. I said, that's a standout to me. That's one. Oh, this is another one. There was a thing called the Tahad Festival. It was in Hempstead, I believe, and I performed there. Now, the crowd was I'm not going to say they were dead, but they weren't as lively in general. And something happened that as soon as I started performing, everybody kind of got up and started dancing. And that kind of, I don't know, it was just like an energy that circulated the area. And people were like, and I could see in people's faces that they were happy. And that felt awesome to me, that the energy would change when I was on the stage. And another time, I actually, probably like a couple years back, I was actually able to perform at Amityville Day. So that was, and again, that was like impromptu, not something I planned. But it happened and it took it and it worked out great.
Well, we could certainly see why. We could certainly see why. Performing in your hometown has to be a thrill of a lifetime for something like that.
Yeah. All I know is that, like I said, I'm blessed to be able to work and maintain a relatively high level considering what I came from. And I'm extremely grateful. And my journey has brought me into a lot of acquaintances and associations. And it's a pleasure to have met and spoken with you. Your energy is excellent and astounding, and you have a vibe about you that's very, very positive. And I'm happy that I get to run into people like you and other people, who help influence me and help push me to where I'm going. So thank you. Shout out to you.
Absolutely, my friend. Listen, feeling is mutual. Right back at you. And listen, we always like to bring out the positives here on Sportnarium. That has always been our motto, whether it's been with the sports report or whether it's been with the music report or the news report. So these are things that we've always liked to be able to do. And listen, when Olivier said to me to speak with you, I was like, this is a no-brainer. This is a home run. I got a really good feeling about this one. And then seeing you're a huge wrestling fan and also a former professional wrestler in your own right. I mean, listen, it's a no-brainer. And plus all the great things that you're doing already. So we definitely want to congratulate you. And for you, my friend, I want to give you the floor. I want to give you any closing thoughts. I also want you to plug any other social media that you're missing that we haven't plugged already. That could be Facebook, Twitter. We know your Instagram is at Keez Hip Hop. So there's a lot of great things you're working on out there. So if you'd like to plug that as well, and anything you'd like to say to your fans and anyone else here listening on Sportnarium, the floor is definitely yours. And I can't thank you enough. And fire away, my friend.
All righty. Keez Hip Hop on everything. Keez Hip Hop on YouTube, Keez Hip Hop on Twitter, Keez Hip Hop on Instagram, Keez on Facebook, KeezHipHop.net is my website. There's a lot of good things coming, a lot of content, and it's not just music. There's other things down the pipeline. We have a lot of big things planned. I'm very humbled that I have the opportunity to talk to everyone, to be heard, and I don't take it lightly. Tune in tomorrow night, 7 p.m. I'm going to send a link as well as live stream it on my Instagram, and if I can find how to do it to stream it on the Facebook, I'll do that also. There's a lot coming out. Just check me out. I'm on Spotify. Keez, my album Come Hell or High Water, Contingency Plan, you already know. Single Epic is out now. I got a lot of more things coming down the pipeline, and like I said, I'm so appreciative of everybody and your time, your ears, your attention. Tom, you are the man, bro.
I don't know about that, my friend, but we know that you are on your way to bigger and better things, and we're extremely excited about tomorrow night's virtual concert. We cannot wait to tune in and see all the great things that you're doing, so everybody can follow Keez on all those great platforms and check out the brand new single if you haven't heard it here. And also, you're in for a treat when it comes to movement and perspective, and this is why you need to go out there and stream his music, buy it, whatever you need to do. You need to follow this man. He is definitely on a journey that you're going to want to be on a ride for. So for you, my friend, I'm looking forward to speaking with you here soon in the coming weeks and months. We know you have a lot of big projects that you're working on, and we definitely want to highlight those here on Sportnarium. And congratulations, and looking forward 100%. To tomorrow night's concert, and keep up the great work, and we'll talk with you soon.
Thank you, bro. I'll keep you posted.
As we're here on the Music Report, the #1 global music show with worldwide renowned recording artist, Keez. As I am the host of the Music Report and the station manager here of Sportnarium, the Reverend Tom Bryce. And stay tuned for it, ladies and gentlemen. Brand new music from Keez. Well, it's brand new music for us here on Sportnarium when it comes to 2 songs that he's talked about here called Movement and Perspective. So you're in for a treat here, so stay tuned for that. As we just spoke with the man himself, Keez, we might as well call today's show the Keez Show, because we are definitely finding out why he is one of the premier artists around. So stay tuned for that brand new music from Keez when it comes to movement and perspective. So you want to stay tuned for that right now here on Sportnarium and on the Music Report. We have 2 brand new songs from Keez, and they're called Movement and Perspective. So stay tuned for that, as I am the host of the Music Report and the station manager here of Sportnarium, the Reverend Tom Bryce.